Hello and welcome back to the MLB DFS Slate breakdown for May 31st. We are back. We're going to be breaking down today's slate. We have 13 games to go over. And because we have so many games and yesterday's slate was only a 4-gamer, we're going to skip going over the perfect lineups and the winning lineups. Now, if you do want to know yesterday's winning lineup constructions, it was a 5-2-1 on DraftKings and a 5-1-1-1 as they tied for first. And then on FanDuel, it was a 4-2-1-1. Now, before we get into today's slate, come join us at LineStar. $39.99 per month gets you access to everything we do, all the props, all the DFS. You get it all. And if you haven't tried us yet, you can go to the App Store and get a free 7-day trial. Download LineStar app. Get that free trial. Come join us. We also have some nice new tools coming out soon. All right, let's get into this slate. We'll check it out. We'll see what we got here. Our highest owned pitcher for the day is Walker Buehler. Walker Buehler, I do think, is in a pretty interesting spot here. I don't mind going Walker Buehler. Colorado strikes out a ton. That offense is terrible away from Coors. It's not that good in Coors. The only issue with Walker Buehler is he's still obviously working back into form. 5.23 FIP over his last 5 starts is just bad. Hasn't had a start since before this season until 2022. And even then, he wasn't that good. He has a 4.37 FIP over his last 20 starts. However, this is a guy that was a Cy Young candidate, for the years prior to that. So I do still believe he can be very good, and I'm intrigued in taking some at this price and versus the Rockies. We saw him have one very good outing, 6 innings, 78 pitches, 7 Ks versus Cincinnati. I think he is going to round into form a little bit here. I'm intrigued, definitely not going all in, but I don't mind this spot. 24.9% K rate at 8.7 K is at least intriguing. The whole reason to fade him is the fact that he's high owned and that he hasn't been great lately. Tanner Bybee, he's one of my favorite spots on today's slate. 9.4K, 2.1X. He's been good. Mid-3s FIP, 24% K rate, 24.2% combined K rate, 9.4K is fine. There's really not much bad to say about this spot. The thing with Washington, CJ Abrams has been awful lately. He's striking out a ton, just totally looks lost at the plate, and he's one of their best hitters. So if he continues that poor form, then it starts to look kind of good for Tanner Bybee. So definitely a little bit intrigued by him. Next, Tanner Huck, 9.6K. My worry with Tanner Huck is just the combined K rate. It's only 22% at 9.6K. Now, he does have a ceiling where he can get it done. We saw 10 Ks versus Oakland, 9 Ks versus Cleveland. Detroit isn't a very good offense, so I don't mind going here. Also, the big worry for him all year is when he is home, he hasn't been as good. Now, this number, the 25.4% less fantasy points at home, has been coming down the last few starts. So I actually don't mind going with some Tanner Huck in this situation. Just my worry here is the upside isn't as high as some guys around his price. But I'm definitely intrigued. I like him. Statcast data has been great, and he's been pitching unbelievable. The 2.38 FIP over the last 5. Next, Jose Soriano. There's another spot which is one of my favorite of the night. We have him at 2.3x. Projection is there. He's not as high owned as I think he should be. 26% K rate versus righties for Seattle. Low WOBA. Their issue is high ISO. 173 ISO versus righties over the last 20, 153. So they do hit righties hard. However, you don't have to worry about home runs quite as much with Soriano because he has 66% ground balls, only 20% fly balls. I'm intrigued. 25.4% combined K rate at 7.3K is interesting. Definitely going to have some of him. Next, we got Dylan Cease. All right, this one we really got to talk about the weather here. So the weather in Kansas City, there is going to be rain. It is going to rain without a doubt. The weather is clearing a little bit throughout the day, but to actually wait until after the weather is gone, it's going to be too long of a delay where they probably would just call it. However, delayed start and play when it's, lighter rain is definitely a possibility. And if there's no delay, Cease is in a really good spot. The winds are blowing in, only helps him. He's the best pitcher on the slate, has solid FIP, 34.4% combined or K rate tonight. The combined K rate is the highest on the slate at 27.7. So there's huge upside. He's going to go a little under owned because of the weather situation. If you want to take some chances, going with Cease is not a terrible idea. Now, just make sure you pay attention to the weather because no idea what's going to happen in, 6 hours from now, 7 hours from now. So, yeah. Ronaldo Lopez, only 1.5x. His projection for us is way too low for me to really consider him. And I'm worried that, they're being too careful with him to really give him that upside to warrant having him. Brian Wu, definitely intrigued by him. One, he's better at home. 32.7% more fantasy points at home. 23.5% K rate. He's been great. 2.87 FIP over his last 5 starts. 4 over his last 20. StatCast data looks good. He has a 38% K rate versus the Angels in 21 plate attempts. So all in all, I think he looks good. I don't mind this spot. It's in a pitcher-friendly park. He's at home where he's comfortable. We've seen some real solid upside versus the Yankees, where he went 6 innings, 77 pitches, and 7 Ks, but he followed that up by not that good. My big worry here is he went 79 pitches the second outing, 77 pitches his third, and then down to 70 his fourth. So I think they are worried about his pitch count. His pitch count over the last 20 starts is only 80.5, his average pitch count. So I think that's probably about where his max is, and that is my big worry with him, is he may not have quite the upside. But we have seen him be efficient and work deep into games on that limited pitch count. So I am still very intrigued by him. Just wouldn't go overboard because of that worry. Next, we got Jose Berrios. I'm intrigued by Berrios. 24.6% K rate versus righties. Pittsburgh, low WOBA, low ISO. Berrios doesn't have a great K rate, 23.2% over his last 20, but he's only 8.2K, 23.3% combined K rate is intriguing to me, and he's been very good versus Pittsburgh. So I'm in on Berrios. He needs to snap back into having a good night. He has been poor lately. 5.45 FIP is not good. But 4.2 over the last 20, I think, is more of who he is. And he can definitely get it done and has a big ceiling when he's got it going. So definitely a bit intrigued by Berrios. Luis Severino, don't really love it versus Arizona. You can go there if you want. I'm not going to try and talk you off of him, but I just don't know if the upside is really there for him on this big of a slate. Pablo Lopez. His price is down to 9K. He's in a very tough matchup, but his FIP has been way better than his ERA over the last 5 starts. He's been pitching better than the numbers show. So I don't think you should totally jump off this bandwagon. He's going to go super low owned versus Houston, and for that situation and that he's better when he's on the road, I'm at least intrigued by Lopez. 23.2% combined K rate at 9K isn't too bad. It is higher than guys like Tanner Huck, but there's way more variance just because he hasn't been that good so far this season. He has a 5.25 ERA on the season, but 26.5% K rate over the last 5, and we have seen a couple games this year where he does put it together. Just we'll see if tonight's one versus a tough Houston team doesn't strike out much. Ronel Blanco, regression monsters coming his way at 10.1K. I just can't go there. Eric Fetty's been way better than I ever imagined so far this year. He has a couple games where he's really, really put it together. But I can't do it. As far as super low owned guys that I would consider here, it is just Michael Wacha. 7.1K, 3.9 FIP over his last 20, 3.3 over his last 5. He's facing the team that controlled him last year. He was on the Padres last year. Only has a 22% K rate, but he can work efficiently and work deep into games. Padres aren't striking out a lot. He's 25% less fantasy points at home, but he's only 7.1K and we have him at 2.5X. Now, remember, big issue with the weather here, but if there's no in-game delay and say they just late start and play, the weather does support better pitching here. So at 7.1K, he's at least of interest, and I wouldn't mind having a little bit of him. Outside of that, don't really care for much else here. I guess you could go JP Sears, who Braves offense just hasn't been that great. Sears has a ceiling when he gets it going. We've seen him put up, mid-20 scores, and at 5.9X, that would be nice. 5.9K, 2.4X. He's averaging more points away. I'm at least intrigued, but I probably won't have any, or if I do, it'll be very, very little. Now, get into FanDuel Pitchers, highest owned, Tanner Bybee. He's probably my favorite spot on FanDuel, although I am intrigued by Walker Buehler, Tanner Huck, and then Dylan Cease is going lower owned, but nobody has the ceiling. So when he's, closer to 13% at 9.9K, I'm very intrigued and definitely going to have some Cease. Most likely, there is the caveat that I'm going to see what the weather is doing later on today. Michael Wacha is interesting, super low owned. Jose Barrios is interesting, as is Brian Wu. And if you want to get crazy with some Pablo Lopez, you can go there. However, LineStar is not liking Pablo Lopez like right now. They are liking Brian Wu, Stroman, Barrios. All are considerations for low-owned guys. Now, let's get into the slate, or the stacks. The stack attack. Now, pretty interesting slate. 8.5 is the highest game total. So I think pretty much all the stacks are in play today. I don't think there's a clear stack. You can just be like, nah, not playing that one. Frankly, game totals are just all too close. The Dodger stack is going to look the nicest. They are the big-time favorites in the highest game total game, but still not that great. And one of these days, the stacks will load for us. All right, Tobias Myers, 5.96 FIP over the last 20 is the worst on the slate, making the White Sox a little bit interesting here. I don't mind going White Sox. They've kind of been pesky, but it's the White Sox. At least they're low-owned. The value is there. Don't mind a little bit of White Sox. Now, let's get into the highest-owned stacks. Our highest-owned stacks is Boston versus Kenta Maeda. So Maeda can be very, very good, but he can also get crushed. 5.16 over his last 20, 5.87 over his last 5. Boston's at home. They are cheap. You're going to be able to pay up for pitchers with them. Definitely intrigued in some Boston, and 58% owned is just not high enough owned to really even care about ownership. Texas is next, and 2.1 value. They are versus Sixto Sanchez, who hasn't been that great. He's been getting by, but I think Texas can definitely get to him. And Corey Seager has been on an absolute tear. Dodgers popping up versus Dakota Hudson. Dakota Hudson's another pitcher that's just not that good. And then the Colorado bullpen is terrible. So Dodgers are definitely intriguing. You are going to have to get a lineup that's a little bit different. Say Lux and Hernandez to bring down, the 3 stud guys' price. But definitely intrigued by some Dodger stacks. Let's go to the highest projected. All right, highest owned. Highest projected. We got Cleveland versus Patrick Corbin. Corbin is our favorite punching bag, so that is no surprise whatsoever. Corbin's just been bad for years. Now, I do have to say a Cy Corbin day is probably coming soon since there hasn't been one this year. But this Cleveland offense has been clicking. They've been hitting the ball well, and I like myself some Cleveland today. Also like the Dodgers, so definitely intrigued on both of them. Let's get over to the value stacks. And the highest value stack is... Did I hit it? Did I not hit it? Right when I... Oh, all right. San Francisco Giants and Boston are the value stacks. San Francisco in spot versus Marcus Stroman, who Stroman doesn't really get crushed, so I don't love the spot to try and pick on Stroman. However, I don't mind some small Giant stacks. My issue with stacking the Giants is they just platoon so many guys and bring so many guys in to pinch hit that it's very, very hard to stack that team. Now, I don't mind taking a small stack of them, but I'm not going all in on the Giants. Now, let's click the teams here and see how that looks. All right, so Dodgers, highest implied total. Braves are next. That's 0.6 difference. So there is a big difference from implied total from 1 to 2. After that, a slew of people very, very close. So Braves, Baltimore, Rangers, Boston, Milwaukee, Padres, Toronto, Cleveland, Houston, Minnesota are all within 0.3 of each other. And all of them are in play. I think this is a slate where there are so many ways you can go that I think ownership is going to be really spread out, and you really don't need to worry too much about ownership. Now, the bullpen spots we want to pick on Pittsburgh. So Toronto stack is there. You want to pick on Tampa Bay. Baltimore stack is there. You want to pick on Colorado. Dodgers stack is there. But really, Miami, Detroit, White Sox, none of their bullpens are that good, as well as KC. With these higher implied total teams, if you're able to jump on them early, that starter comes out a little bit early, it could get pretty ugly. And the other thing here is that all of these higher implied team totals are good offenses. So I definitely think there's going to be a couple teams tonight that end up putting, 8, 9, 10 runs on the board, and stacking is going to be very important today. While all the totals are low, there's going to be a couple outliers, and make sure you're stacked, and let's win some money. I will see you guys next week. Hope all is well. Good luck this weekend. Good luck tonight. Let's make some money. Peace.